Today we're going to be talking about the Vampire of Sacramento. Crazy case, you guys. Crazy case. This video contains themes of violence, cannibalism, necrophilia, mental health issues, extreme gore, and animal cruelty. Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewers' discretion is advised. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Oh my god, it's been like what, over 3 months since I posted anything on my YouTube. Not since I shot anything, because I've been shooting for work, but not just for my YouTube, and I miss this so freaking much, and I'm so glad to be back. So anyway, welcome you guys to my channel. My name is Omodele Salu, and if you're here, that means you're invested in true crime content as much as I am. So welcome, take a seat. I'm going to be posting a lot. I know I did not get to say I'm going to be posting a lot of contents like this again, because I stayed away for 3 months. That's 12 videos. But anyway, I'm going to be posting contents like this. So if this is something that you like, please subscribe, and turn that notification bell on so you can get notified when I post a new video, which is not going to be 3 months apart, I promise you. Now that all that is out of the way, let's get right into today's case. The Vampire of Sacramento was born Richard Trenton Chase on the 3rd of May 1950 in Sacramento, California, in the US. At a very young age, the signs were there. The signs that Richard was not mentally okay, but his father was a very strict man, and sometimes he would even physically abuse Richard, so he probably thought that a little bit of discipline would set him straight. So they just neglected him and did not get him the help he so clearly needed. Richard was very disturbed and unhappy as a child, and as he grew older, he just got worse. He was setting these small fires, frequently wetting the bed, and then he just became really cruel to animals. By the age of 5, he was already exhibiting all 3 parts of the McDonald triad. The McDonald triad is a theory suggesting the development of violent psychopathy. It theorizes that animal cruelty, fire setting, and bedwetting in children can be a sign of later aggressive and violent behavior when they become adults. Like I said before, Richard was exhibiting all 3. So he was setting fire to shit, he was bedwetting, and he was being cruel to animals. Now, this McDonald triad theory is very, very tricky, and I'm going to explain why in a bit. According to Wikipedia, the triad was first proposed by psychiatrist J.M. MacDonald in The Threat to Kill, a 1963 article in the American Journal of Psychiatry. Small-scale studies conducted by psychiatrists Daniel Hellman and Nathan Blackman, and then FBI agents John E. Douglas and Robert K. Ressler, along with Ann Burgess, claims substantial evidence for the association of these childhood patterns with later predatory behavior. Although it remains an influential and widely taught hypothesis, subsequent research has generally not validated this line of thinking. The triad links cruelty to animals, obsession with fire setting, and persistent bedwetting past the age of 5 to violent behaviors, particularly homicidal behavior and sexually predatory behavior. However, other studies claim to have not found statistically significant links between the triad and violent offenders. Further studies have suggested that these behaviors are actually more linked to childhood experience of parental neglect, brutality, or abuse. Some argue that this in turn results in homicidal proneness. The triad concept as a particular combination of behaviors linked to violence may not have any particular validity. However, it has been called an urban legend. According to Douglas and his fellow researchers, the triad behaviors are not casual when examining a relationship with later predatory behavior, but rather are predictive of an increased likelihood of future behavior patterns and give professionals a chance to halt some patterns before they progress. Yes, Wikipedia. I don't want to hear it. Now, according to Douglas and his people, they are not saying that if your child is showing signs of all these behaviors, so wetting their bed, setting fire to shit, and then being cruel to animals, for sure they're going to turn out to be serial killers or just killers in general. No, they are saying that this might be an indication that something is not right somewhere, and you should probably get them some help, which should be common sense. In high school, Richard had a few girlfriends, but he was not able to maintain a steady relationship with any of them, partly due to his inability to achieve and or maintain an erection. Richard learnt in health class that erections were due to blood flow, and because he could not achieve an erection with his girlfriends, and even when he did, he could not maintain it. So he felt like this was because he did not have more blood in him. His blood was not enough, and he felt like drinking more blood would get it up. Of course, he did not start with humans, so one bird here, one squirrel here, one maybe cat there. Richard did seek professional help for his erection problem, but he was told that the root cause of his problem was either repressed rage or mental illness. Richard did not seek further help after this. It would later be determined that he did not like conventional sex. That's why he was not able to get it up, right? Regular sex with regular people was not really his thing. There had to be some violence involved. At the age of 18, when Richard's father threw him out of the house, his problems just doubled. Now, his mother did get him an apartment though, and she put him up with roommates. His roommate obviously did not know anything about this guy they were now staying with. They didn't know about all his weird activities, but they did notice that he was really dirty. He would not clean up after himself. He would not even shower. He would not brush his teeth. Richard was now out in the world without supervision, living his very best life. He did not have mommy to tell him what to do or daddy to yell at him at every possible chance, right? And so quickly he turned to drugs and alcohol, and at a very young age, he became a very heavy drug user, right? Sometimes Richard would think that he was dead, right? It was just like a walking corpse, and then at other times he would be like, I am healthy but I am alive but I need to be healthy. And so he would take whole oranges and place it on his forehead, thinking his brain would somehow suck in all the nutrients and nourish his body. At this point, Richard had so many weird shit going on. He thought that drinking blood would improve his erection. He thought that he lacked vitamin C, so he would place oranges on his forehead to get him the nutrients he needed to stay healthy. And then the most weirdest of it all is that he felt like his cranial bones had cracked, split apart, and then they were just moving and jumbling under his skin. And so he shaved his head so that he could see and monitor their movements. Richard's roommates did not like him at all. He was doing all this weird shit. It was also really dirty, but he was also bringing drugs. So they just ignored all the weird shit he was doing, that's just Richard, crazy old Richie. Now, Richard's roommates were not completely blinded by the drugs he was giving them. They did know that some of his behaviors were just really out there. One time they had a party and Richard was on the floor twisting while people were dancing, having fun, having drinks. He was just twisting on the floor, and it got so ridiculous that they had to lock him in his room and then nail the door shut. Now, I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm not saying that his behavior deserved that reaction, right? This is a bad thing, but this was also the 70s, and I don't want to think about what boys were doing in the 70s. God no, God no. Anyway, Richard broke out through his wall, and his excuse was like very, very weird. He told his roommates, they're like, why did you do that shit, man? And he was like, people were trying to sneak up on me from behind inside his empty room that his roommate had just like locked him inside. He said people were trying to sneak up on him, and that was why he like broke through the wall. Now, his roommate got tired of this nonsense, and so they were like, you need to leave, right? You need to leave. And Richard is like, no, I am not leaving this house. And so they just left him to his drugs, to his shit, everything. They got really tired. They just could not take it anymore. Now, Richard's parents could not afford to continue to pay the rent now that it was just him. And so Richard was forced to move back home with his parents. Richard was living with his parents, and things did not get any better. At the age of 25, he did something that was really scary. He injected himself with the blood of a rabbit, and this made him really sick. He had to be admitted. He was then diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and he had to be like institutionalized to make sure that he didn't become a danger to himself and to the people around him. Richard escaped from the institution and went home to his mother. Luckily, he was caught and sent to an institution for the criminally insane. Richard spent his time there scaring the staff. He would tell them about the fantasies he had about killing rabbits. One time he was found with blood smeared on his mouth, and the hospital staff discovered that he had captured 2 birds and just sucked their blood after snapping their necks. His obsession and fascination with blood made them give him the nickname Dracula. Despite witnessing several incidents where Richard had harmed animals and went ahead to drink their blood, the hospital staff somehow believed they had rehabilitated him, and so they placed him on some anti-schizophrenic medication and released him into the care of his mother. Now, Richard's Mama Richard. This woman thought that her son was fine. He was doing A-OK and did not need any medication to feel fine. And so she got him off it. And this just proves to be the most stupid decision ever. Richard was staying with his parents, but he felt like his mom was trying to poison him and unalive him, so he wanted a place of his own. His parents did agree to put him up in an apartment though, but with roommates, and almost immediately, same as the last time, his roommate started complaining about his behavior. So he was dirty, he was always under the influence of alcohol, always smoking, always doing drugs, and they just got really tired. Sometimes he would walk out of his room completely naked when they had guests, like completely naked. And so they got tired of his bullshit and told him that he had to leave. He refused again, same as the last time, and they left him again. I feel like I'm using again so many times. Anyway, okay, no, I'm joking. But this time his parents did like maintain the rent and he got to stay on his own, which was a very bad decision because I feel like having people around him was kind of like keeping him in check. So it's like, here, a daily dose of crazy, but not crazy enough, like that you feel you have to report me to the police. Richard, now alone, decided that the best way to spend his time was to make smoothies. Now, this was not your regular kind of smoothie. He would capture animals, disembowel them, take their, inside organs, everything, and place into a blender, add Coca-Cola, blend it all together, and drink it. Sometimes he would just like drink their blood. Other times he would eat their organs raw. And he said that he was doing this because he felt his heart was shrinking and he needed all these nutrients to make his heart stay or retain its normal size. Richard spent most of his time capturing and torturing animals to death. He would drink their blood and sometimes even eat them raw. And this wasn't only animals that he like maybe went into the wild to hunt. This was also his neighbor's pets. So dogs, cats, and at least one time he called his neighbor on phone and told them like, yo, look, I just kidnapped your pet. I tortured it, I killed it, I drank their blood and I ate them. So he was narrating in details what he did to their pet. At this time, Richard had also developed an interest in firearms and he bought several handguns. He became fascinated with true crime cases, especially that of the Hillside Strangler. He believed that, like him, the Hillside Strangler was also a victim of the Nazi/UFO conspiracy. Richard started to care even less about his personal hygiene and health, which is weird when you think about it, considering how consumed he was about what was going on inside of him, right? So he wasn't bathing, he wasn't brushing, he wasn't doing any grooming, and he was not eating anything because he lost so much weight. All this is happening within the year after his stay at the institution, after he had supposedly been rehabilitated, right? So he's just getting way worse. And I do not know if his parents knew how bad he was getting, but I think they did, and I'm going to tell you why after I say something. So one day in 1977, Mama Richard got a knock on the door, and she opened the door. She saw it was Richard. Richard was just standing there holding up a dead cat to her face. Now, there are some reports that say that this cat was her cat, right? But we are not sure, so we're just going to go with a dead cat, right? So Richard throws this dead cat to the floor, kneels down, and just like with his bare hands, he rips open this cat. He sticks his hand inside, brings out his hand with the blood and everything, and starts to like smear it all over his face, screaming. Now, Mama Richard is just looking at him, and she did not say Pim. She did not say a word. She just goes back inside, shuts her door, and never even doesn't even decide to like, okay, maybe I should call the institution or call the police. Just do something. And this makes me believe that they knew that, even if they did not know before, like at this point, you have to know that shit is getting real, right? On the 3rd of August 1977, Nevada State Police found a car lodged in a sand drift near Pyramid Lake. Inside this car, there were 2 rifles, a pile of clothes, a bucket of blood, and a liver. The officers found out that this car belonged to a Richard Chase, so they tracked him down and they found him naked and screaming in the sand, completely soaked in blood. When questioned about the blood, Richard claimed that the blood belonged to him and it had leaked out of him through his flesh. However, the officers soon determined that the blood and organ belonged to a cow and not a human being, and so they just let Richard go. Why? Why, brother? Why? Because, I don't know, maybe they felt like it was just like high out of his mind and he was going to like get better or something, but I feel like high out of your mind and you fall into a ditch or a gutter is different. And it's like you're going to take off your bad decisions and maybe make better decisions next time, right? So, bye-bye, you can go get out of here. But high out of your mind, and then you end up soaked in cow's blood. You're screaming in the sand. In your car, there's like a bucket full of blood. There's a cow's liver, and the cow is nowhere to be found. It's a little more, I don't know. He's not a butcher, so what were you thinking, my guy? What were you thinking? On the 27th of December 1977, Richard shot a handgun into the home of a Sacramento woman. Luckily, no one was hurt. 2 days after that, on the 29th of December 1977, Richard was feeling sad and lonely because his mom had told him that he could not come home for the holidays. So he was just feeling sad and lonely and decided to like take it out on a total stranger, right? So he went out there and he killed 51-year-old Ambrose Griffin, a father of 2. 2 weeks later, he attempted to enter the home of a woman, but her doors were locked. He would later say that locked doors meant no, you cannot come into my home, but unlocked doors was okay, go ahead, do whatever you want in my home. So that was kind of his justification. People who left their doors open knew what was coming and they wanted it kind of to happen to them. There was one time we saw an unlocked door and he went in. No one was home, luckily, and the home belonged to a couple. They were later able to chase him away when they came back, but he went through their things and then he just peed and took a shit on their child's bed and clothes. At this point, Richard's crimes are starting to progress. On the 23rd of January 1978, he broke into the home of Teresa Wallen, who was 3 months pregnant at the time, and he shot her 3 times. He then had sex with her corpse while stabbing her with a butcher's knife. As if that was not enough, this man ripped her open, removed multiple organs, cut off one of her nipples, drank her blood, and again, as if that was not enough, he went to her backyard, picked up dog shit, and stuffed it down her throat. 4 days after the gruesome attack on Teresa on the 27th of January 1978, Richard broke into the home of Evelyn Murrett. Now, he did not immediately see Evelyn, but he saw Danny, her friend, and so he shot her immediately. And then he saw Evelyn, he saw her 6-year-old son, Jason, and her 22-month-old baby nephew, David, and he just shot all of them. But he wasn't done, right? He took Evelyn's corpse and had sex with it. He mutilated it and ate some parts of it. Now, there was a knock on the door while he was still inside the house, and this scared him. So he took the corpse of this 22-month-old baby, David, and fled in Danny's car. Bruv. The visitor immediately alerted a neighbor who then called the police. When the police got to the crime scene, there was blood everywhere and they found complete handprints and shoe prints in this blood, and they knew for sure this belonged to the attacker. Not long after, Richard was arrested for his crimes, and when the police searched his house, they found that everywhere was just covered in blood. So his floors, walls, ceiling, his fridge, all his cooking stuff, they were just soaked in blood. The next year, so 1979, Richard's trial finally happened, and it was an absolute mess. So he was on trial for 6 counts of first-degree murder, and this would get him the death penalty easy. But his lawyers were trying to argue that he was insane and these murders were not premeditated, so the jury cannot possibly find him guilty on those charges. That the right charge would be second-degree murder, which would get him life in prison. But the jury was not buying that shit, and on the 8th of May 1979, they found him guilty on all 6 counts of first-degree murder, and he was sentenced to die in the gas chamber. According to reports, while Richard was waiting to die, I guess, his fellow inmates, they heard about all the crazy shit he did out there, and they were scared of him, so they were always trying to persuade him to kill himself. We do not know if that is what led to Richard's eventual suicide, but on the 26th of December 1980, he did commit suicide by overdosing on prescribed medications. is so crazy, and I'm sorry, but I do not think that justice was served in this case. I feel like it was too easy. I know, yes, he committed the crimes, but then the system, like, no other person was held accountable for the rubbish that happened, because it's like it wasn't just like this happened and then he committed all these crimes. There was like these the crimes, but nobody did anything, or they tried to, but they fucked up big time, and sometimes they didn't even care to do anything about all the this and the crimes. You're just like badging in like, yes, we caught a murderer. But I'm like, you guys created a murderer, because his parents, the institution, the police that saw him that time, like, there were so many signs there that could have that could have avoided. Is that even correct? What am I saying? I'm so pissed off. But there were so many things that would have stopped this, and those people would still be alive, or at least they will not like die such a gruesome death because of your negligence, and then you get to like put him in jail and feel good about yourself, in prison and feel good about yourself. But what of the all the other things that happened that led up to that, the crimes that he committed? I don't know. And of course, don't get me wrong. I'm not like saying, oh, Richard is just like blameless in all of this. No, no freaking no. But I'm saying that it's so easy to sentence that kind of person to death, and then not actually work the system that made it possible for him to like commit the murders in the first place. Because it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't this happened and that happened. It was just right from when he was a little child. So they were like, I can't speak English. There were like so many things to like make you see that things are not going right, and this person needs help. And this person, when he gets help, should not just be like, his parents, oh my God, I forgot, his parents are such, were such, I don't know. I mean, it's that time, honestly, and I'm trying not to be so judgmental. Bless my soul, Lord. I did that. That is rubbish. Anyway, this case is horrible. It's so sad. I hate it. I hate that the victims had to like suffer. I hate that the system did not do anything about Richard early enough. I hate all of it, because it's like something that could have been avoided. Could have been avoided is actually correct. Anyway, so you guys take care of yourselves. Thank you if you watch this all the way to the end, because I know. Anyway, take care of yourself. Like, subscribe, please, if you haven't already. And I will definitely see you next week. I promise. I promise. I swear. I swear. Bye.